I have dedicated my professional career to the study and control of arthropods.
Hey, second video of the day. I had some time. Hopefully, I can make this before the family gets home and everything gets chaotic. I wanted to just do. This is something that's kind of I've thought about for a while here. It's on the subject of reading. As I've mentioned in other videos, I read a lot, and I know lots of people that will, read books or even reading online, looking up stuff online. But what astounds me are the number of people who don't seem to read at all, or when they talk about reading, it's it's discussed as if it was a huge ordeal. Um, and I think that's really fascinating. And I obviously people have different abilities and different skill sets, and not everything comes out of books. I understand that, but what amazes me, however, are when you meet people who are how to say ignorant on certain important subjects in the world. Um, However, express a broad spectrum of knowledge on those subjects. And when you press them a little bit about it, it becomes really quickly evident that their information all comes from talk radio or Fox News or some other source like that. And they have no actual, but they use the terms, maybe it's to fit into society. They talk about, I was researching this or I was looking this up, which makes you think that they actually dug deeper into the subject. And you often find that they haven't. And I think that's really interesting. There was a YouTube user, I'm not naming names, who recently told me in a comment, I research everything I say, when it's plainly obvious that there's not one shred of research going into what this person was saying. And I think it's really interesting because it even expresses to their own, well, like in the Christian realm, the fundamentalist realm, it goes into their own book. Again, back to Bob Altemeyer, he found that self-proclaimed fundamentalist Christians seemingly read less of the Bible than other people had. I mean, in fact, it seemed to be a correlation between how fundamentalist they were and how actual little of the Bible they read. And it's almost become like to me, a flag, a little piece of evidence, a breadcrumb on the road, when I see somebody who starts off a Bible, whatever it is, with John 3:16, since that's the first one you learn. The fact that they sort of start off with that makes me wonder how much more of the Bible they know outside of that verse or a few others. And I think this is interesting because, like Bob Altemeyer put it, and I think it was real. I don't have the book handy, but he put it so beautifully. I thought he stated that if he had a book that he sincerely believed was the true written word of God. God spoke to a person a scribe who wrote down the meaning of life, the importance, all of knowledge that you need to know for an eternal paradise is in this one book. He said if he really believed that, he would spend every waking moment studying this document, reading this document, learning about this document. And it seems to be just the opposite. The people who believe this, well, they're not doing that. In fact, they read precious little of it. They read the assigned verses. When they do actually read the Bible, the whole Bible, it's often like this thing, like this big project they're going to do. It's like, I've honestly, Scout's Honor, read through the entire Bible twice. I've read the entire thing from cover to cover twice in my life. Once when I was young, and once as an adult, 24. And I've subsequently reread portions quite a bit. But the point of it is that and I'm not just talking about the Bible here. Okay, I want to talk about anything, whatever it happens to be. I find this whole idea of not reading it's very interesting to me. And again, I don't know what the root causes of it is. When people say the term willful ignorance is thrown out there, you don't want to read because, well, you might learn something, and heaven help us if we learn something. That might be part of it. Part of it might be that you just sort of have gotten by so often in your life with just being able to get away with it. Like in school, the guy who like does the book report, based on the movie he saw, not based on the book, because he never actually read the book, and sort of pulled that off, and then went on into adulthood, pulling that same stunt with every other area. And just sort of a little anecdote, real quick. I got into on a online evolution creation forum, a literalist, a biblical literalist, and conservative, put forth he started a thread on a book that he was had read this book, and it was so amazing, and he challenged any liberal to read this book and discuss it with him. And there wasn't many takers on it, so I sent a message to him saying, I ordered the book, I ordered it from Amazon, and as soon as it comes, I will read it and we can discuss it. Okay. Anyway, so so I did this, and I read the book, and then he threw out his opinion on it, and I threw out my opinion on it, and we kind of went back and forth. But it quickly became evident to me, and this is fascinating, that every single thing that all of his arguments in support of this book came from like the first paragraph of the introduction and the information on the inside of the dust cover. Okay? When I said, well, what about chapter 4 when he says this, this, and this? And he would go back and he'd go, well, but it does clearly say, and he'd refer to something in the first paragraph of the introduction. And after a while, as I realized, you didn't read this. You're putting this book out there. You're saying, I challenge you liberals, read this book and it will change your mind. And he hadn't actually read that book. And this is a long time ago, and it sort of surprised me. Although increasingly, year after year, I'm less and less surprised when I encounter this exact same situation. I see people on YouTube talking about, read this book, it's a great book, I highly recommend it. And then the things they say let me realize they have never read that book. They probably read a website that referred to that book, but they didn't actually read it themselves. Anyway, I just kind of want a little mini rant here about this thing. People out there, anybody. There's a wonderful, wonderful world of books, online articles, research papers. For a lot of deep thought, the legwork's been done. I mean, people have actually taken the time to compile and put this together for you, so you don't even have to expend much effort to learn things anymore. Learning is easier than it's ever been in the entire history of mankind. So try to learn something. And this whole thing about not learning something that you don't believe. I don't believe in the Bible at all. All right. Do I study the Bible? Yeah, I do. Not like in a deep theological sense, but I read it. I learn about it. I read apologetics articles. I read things that I don't believe because I want to understand how people work. I want to know how people think. I want to know what their arguments are. I don't want to say, I don't believe in that. I know nothing about it, but I don't believe in it. Okay? I don't want to be that guy. And there's unfortunately way too many of you out there. Okay? Again, today's kind of a YouTube ranting day for me. I'm just nothing really of substance here. So anyway, see you next week.